Welcome back to the channel, everyone. So we're going to go ahead and keep going on Project Jolene. First thing I want to do is kind of explain what we're going to do today. We're going to install the windage tray. We're also going to install the front and rear covers with seals, and we're going to put in the oil pickup tube for a modified 810 79 or 76 oil pan, but the oil pan installation will be in a separate video. So let's get started. Today what I have is I have a hex key just to help kind of put things in a little bit faster. Primarily that's going to be for the oil pickup tube. Then we have the windage tray. The thing about the windage tray that I like, and this is the stock windage tray, it has rear right on the tray, so that'll help you with the orientation. I have new windage tray bolts, the different sockets I'm going to use, some rubber gloves. We're going to use some RTV today, just a little. I have painted the original bolts and I'm going to reuse them. Then we have the covers with the gaskets and the seals. Now, this is not going to stay on the engine. This is a tool that I bought off of Amazon, and what this does is it helps you install the seals evenly, and it also helps make sure that your alignment's proper. So in that kit that you can get, and I think it's less than $20, I'll put it in the video, you get these two pieces, you get bolts, and this also helps you line it up, because when you put the plate on, you want to make sure that it's as flush as possible. Here, I think the factory tolerance is 20,000th of an inch, but we're going to make it as even as possible, because when you put the oil pan on, you have to actually put some RTV sealant here, or you could have a leak, and that could cause you a lot of problems down the road. All right, so the first thing that we're going to do is install the windage cover. Again, the windage cover has rear. This is the rear of the engine, and it just goes down on your main mount bolts, just like that. Okay, and then we're going to take our bolts, and these are locking bolts, so I'm really not going to put any thread lock on those, and I'm going to be using a 13mm, and the bolt is actually a 8 by 1.5 metric. We want to keep this bolt off until we go to install the oil pump, or the oil pickup tube. We installed the oil pump on the last video. So all I'm going to do now, and that's the one I'm going to keep off, is just kind of snug these bolts down. When I say snug, I'm not going to put it, they're not going to be too tight. I don't want them tight at all right now until I go to install the oil pickup tube. When you do torque these bolts in, they're 18 foot-pounds, and we'll get our torque wrench out for the final assembly. Okay, and now we're going to look at our pickup tube. One thing that's important, really important about this, is it will affect the oil pressure in the engine. And a lot of the research that I've been doing, it really says this is a real common part for failure. So what I do is I kind of just make sure that my gasket fits good, and it does. And again, before you install gaskets, I recommend some oil. Just kind of keep the gasket hydrated. Then we're going to look down into the oil pump. This is what we installed last video. I'm just going to set my O-ring in the groove. Make sure that it fits properly. It looks really good. Okay. Then I want to install my oil pickup tube. Notice it's a lot different from the stock pickup tube. That's because I'm going to be putting a modified oil pan on the engine to basically move the sump to the front so that I can have enough clearance for the Nova suspension. So, and that's one thing that's really important. If you're going to put a front clip on the car, then that'll work just fine. But I want to use as much of the original suspension as possible that can handle the engine. So then you put your pickup tube, which goes in this location. And I like this too because this is a double mount. And I'm going to slide the tube down in the gasket. Make sure that that looks good, that it's all fitting good. And the one oil pan bolt that I left off is going to go to the oil pickup tube mount. Again, just hand tighten. That's also going to help make sure that your oil pump is fully seated. You can kind of see down there in a little bit, and it looks like it is right on top of the gasket. I really like that. And we're going to line that up. Now we're going to use our oil pickup tube mount screws. These I'll put thread lock on. A lot of times, again with the research, when oil pressure is lost in the LS engines, it's usually something to do with that area of the pickup tube where it mounts to the oil pump. These bolts are, again, just tightened. They get torqued, the oil pump, and double check with the factory specifications. The oil pickup tube is 9 foot-pounds. So we just need to make sure that we're, in other words, it's very low. So, all right, now at that step, I want to go ahead and I'm going to torque the oil pickup tube bolts, and then we're going to torque our windage tray, and that will be that part of the installation. So again, the windage tray, 18 foot-pounds of torque, and the oil pickup tube, 9 foot-pounds. So let's start with the lowest measurement first. I'm having a little bit of trouble getting into that one. And it feels like it is where it needs to be. Okay, and notice we've got a good seal here. Feel confident. Now, with the windage tray bolts, they will be 18. Let me verify that with my notes. Yes. All right. Like anything I torque, I like to kind of go around the engine. All right, ladies and gentlemen, so that is our windage tray and our oil pickup 2 install. Now let's go ahead and start with the front cover. I've already removed the gaskets. This, even though you can reuse, if they're in good shape, you can reuse your stock gaskets. These virtually come with a lot of the parts you buy, and they're cheap enough. I just bought the full engine kit, but this is if you buy a cam kit or something like that, these gaskets will come into play. But they are designed to be reusable, which means that you really don't need silicone on them. So if you look at the gasket and you wonder which way does it go, you can easily tell because the gasket is omnidirectional. So that is correct gasket placement to cover this. Now, I was doing some research on it, and I really liked the installation upside down because it makes it easier to line up with this surface. Before I do that, just like one of the golden rules to me that that I talk about is making sure that the bolt holes that I'm going to put this in are clean. Yeah, these are designed to dry fit, but I'm just putting just a little oil to keep it hydrated. These are my front cover bolts. I wanted to show the difference between the front and the rear. The rear's just a little bit shorter. So the first thing, you know, that's not a good place to keep your bolts because you can drop them in the engine. I'm not really too concerned with lining the pan up right now. I just kind of want to get the bolts in it through the gasket and get the bolts started, and then you'll see that you can move the entire cover around. That's why it's important, very important, and it's really worth the investment of this tool that I bought, because I really think it's like 20 bucks or under. Maximum it could be 35, but it's a really good price for the comfort of knowing that your seals are installed good. And these covers also, I'll verify, but they're 18 foot-pounds of torque as well. And I think I was reading somewhere, and I can give you the calculation, but I think that 9 foot-pounds is 105 inch-pounds, but I'll put it in the video. Okay, so now I'm not going to tighten the bolts. What I'm going to do is just hand snug the bolts down. Oh, and it's going to be a 10 millimeter. You want to be careful to reinstalling your bolts, because if you take the time to prime them and paint them, you want them to look good. Okay, let's do these two. Now what's really nice about this kit is there's 2 points that it helps you make sure that your cover's perfectly lined up. And the first part is going to be this tool. You have to remove, I'm using the old crankshaft bolt so that I can rotate the engine if I need to. You have to remove that, and then you just line your tool up on there, and you can move your cover around until this tool fits in. And then what that does is it pretty much almost lines your oil pan up. Now you do want the gasket, another thing to mention, you do want the gasket just a little bit up like this. And that is to help it seal better. So I feel good about that. Now to make sure that we get this right, there's also the top part of the tool. And what it does is it screws down into your block and the cover at the same time to level it up. Now, that same part will not work on the back, but that's okay because you're going to use the oil pan to tighten that part down. So we're going to go ahead first and we'll mount to our block. There's no torque specific on this. This is just for alignment. And it is made by the Museum Retrofit Power. I think that was an Amazon purchase also, or it was part of the kit, right? Now, I'm going to use these. I've already tightened, so now I'm going to use the front bolt holes to pull the engine cover up where I want it. And one thing that you want to do is make sure to leave your tool in there. If you take your tool out or you have trouble taking it out, that means that the front cover has got out of alignment. So you can kind of see it. It pulls it up. That's really nice. Very nice. Okay, so like I mentioned, you want to check your alignment tool, and it still goes in very easy. The thing I like about this tool is you can just flip it over and you can use it to seat your actual seal. Now here's the seal that I'm going to use. Again, this is Felpro. Usually you get a cam kit, you'll get a new seal. As a matter of fact, this is what comes with a cam kit. So you can see, you notice the gasket and you can see the seal that's here. But what'll happen is I'll probably just donate this to someone who needs it because I have the other gaskets. One thing that I learned in the process of doing this is that don't buy a gasket kit to start with. Buy the parts and the accessories that you want, because a lot of them come with gaskets and you won't have 3 or 4 of the same gasket. You come in to give me a hand, big fella? Oop. And the same with this seal. They are made to dry install. This is just a holder, but the seal is going to go in. If you notice that this has a direction on it, but also it helps you keep the seal in alignment. Now, what I want to do here, and this is kind of maybe just insurance overkill, I'm going to put just a little bit because that's a very vulnerable place to leak. This is where we can pop. Yes, ma'am. Again, reverse our tool. And we're going to use this to seat our gasket. So just set it over your crank and then gently go around in a circle. And you will know when you are fully seated. Very nice. Okay, we're done with that one. Again, I don't want anything to dry. One thing to point out in those covers too is that when I cleaned them to paint them, I made sure the area where the seals were going to sit were really clean. Okay, the cover is setting flush and looks really good with this tool in place. So now what I'm going to do is just tighten down a couple of these to hold it in place. I don't want to torque them down yet, just hand tighten. And it is going to be 18 foot-pounds. And I'm at 18. Actually, no, I said hand tighten. Can remove our brace. That is very nice, and you can see the gasket. It's going to leave a good seal. That is great. There we go. We are installed. All right, move to the back. A lot of the same principles work for the back. It's just a little bit harder because you have your engine stand to contend with.
A single impassable divide, even if devoid of water.
Notice that I only just kept those hand tight. I want to leave that like that for now. This tool works to align it on the crank, and then the same thing, you can tap your gasket in. Again, omnidirectional. It's a really nice alignment tool.
Procedure used to treat spinal compression fractures. I make sure you schedule the patient within 24 hours. It can be done under light sedation. Most patients are feeling relief within a few days.
And before we torque those, we're going to thread lock. And that's just for security. And I've already cleaned these rear holes. It just took a while, and you watch the front and it'd be boring to watch the back. There we go. Now I seated it like I wanted it. Oh yeah. You want to fill the gasket. And make sure that your tool can move. If it can't, you've got it too tight. You don't want to tighten these all the way down, because when we go to install the oil pan, we need to draw it up a little. So again, all I'm doing is hand tighten. We're gonna have to get creative, but you can get down in here and do your bolts. Just with a little time and patience. And the same thing with your seal. And again, this goes to the inside. Make sure it's clean. And I'm gonna tighten down two of the bolts to hold the cover in place. And just ease my tool out. Now these gaskets, they come with grooves for the seal, and they are designed to be installed again dry. It is in. Okay, everyone, so we put on the windage tray, we installed the front oil pickup tube, and we installed the front and the rear oil seals. I really like it. The only thing left is we need to do the oil pan install and then torque our covers down to their final specification. So Thanks everyone for coming by and watching the video. And I want to give a shout out to Brian Tooley Racing. Thanks for your support. And also shout out to my family. We're about to go on a big adventure, and I appreciate everyone's support. Thank you. And next episode, we're going to be installing the new oil pan. Thank you.